Do you know what really sucks? Is sitting down to edit your project and realizing that you have gaps in your coverage or shots missing. You need to have a really good, specific, and detailed shot list. Head over to filmmakersecrets.com/shot list, SHOTLIST, to get a killer shot list template along with some training where I show you step by step exactly how to use it.
For me, everything is artistic. Money is just a functionary, right? It's like, okay, well, I don't know. I need a crane to do. The reality is there's so many creative ways to make a film.
Filmmakers have the power to evoke emotion, inspire thought, and drive universal change in this world. Right now, a real seismic shift is happening in the film industry. This is your best chance to join a new filmmaking movement. You have been called to create an everlasting impact with your unmatched, deep desire to tell authentic stories. So how does a filmmaker thrive in an environment that is almost intentionally designed to bring you down? That is the question, and this podcast reveals the answer. What's happening, filmmakers? It's George VK. Welcome to Filmmaker Secrets podcast, episode number 33. And I am so excited to introduce my next guest, Bobby Del Rio. He is an actor, a director, a producer, a writer, all over the place. And I will let him dive into all of those nitty-gritty details himself. But Bobby, go ahead and say what's up to our filmmakers and reveal the one filmmaker secret that you've been keeping from us.
What's up, filmmaker? What's going on? I have no idea how to. Enthusiasm.
That's what it's all about.
I don't know. I don't even remember because I filled out. You were like, "Oh, answer the thing." And I don't even remember what I wrote. Filmmaker secret.
Yours was. I'll give you a hint. It was about doing every interview.
Yes. See, I do what I say. I do. Actually, it's as soon as he said that, and then he gave me the tip, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I remember." So I got a distribution deal for my first feature at the beginning of the pandemic, which was a very small distribution deal, but in Canada, got us an article in Playback, which is like the Hollywood Reporter of Canada, and it's my feature debut, right, as a writer director. But it took 5 years to get this deal. Even at this level, it's a small deal, but it's hard for someone to distribute your film, willing to put resources in and whatnot. But I've done maybe close to 100 interviews now for it since the beginning of which is now partly it's because of Clubhouse and I'm national news in Canada because of Clubhouse, which is insanity. But also the movie helped, right? Because I was interviewed. I've had a long career. It's over 20 years now in Canada. Although now I'm going back and forth between the US and Canada. But there's something about I'm dating an American. So every time I say about, she makes fun of me. So I'm about. Every time I say about.
We have accents here too.
About. Yeah, you do. I think filmmakers, they do a thing where it's you put your blood, sweat, and tears. We all know, how hard it is to make a film. You make a film, and then I don't know. It's you do the festival run. Maybe you get a distribution deal like mine. Maybe a better one. Maybe you don't get one at all. But it's pretty similar. You kind of put it in theaters or VOD or whatever you want. Maybe you spend a couple weeks, maybe a month, and then you cry and you're off to the next one. Or for me, I've spent a year promoting this movie, right? Now, partly it's because I only have the one. It's the pandemic, and I have other projects, but it's my feature debut. I love it, right? But it's really interesting to me that I've literally been promoting it for over a year since the distribution deal, and I was promoting it before. And I'm doing another interview about it, right? I have 4 interviews set up this week. And the movie always ends up being at the forefront. Sometimes the interview is about me, sometimes the interview is about the movie, but it's always the first thing that people talk about. So it's kind of this whole thing is but like people are actually watching the movie, right? And it's like I'm getting deals from the movie. And I think that filmmakers fundamentally underestimate the value of promoting. Can I swear? Am I allowed to swear? Promoting the fuck out of your movie, like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, I don't know if people are thinking about Kevin Smith, Clerks era. Like, great. I mean, I love, like I'm old. I'm half Chinese, so I look 14, but I'm 43, But you can't do that shit anymore. You can't just like make a movie and get into a festival. As you were saying actually before the podcast began in earnest, like hope you get into Sundance and now you're fucking good, right? It's like, today I was running my international film financing room, and like literally there was a producer who said his friend got into Sundance. He said his friend actually won Sundance, which freaked me out, and didn't get a distribution deal. He's like, not only did he get in, he said he won. I don't know what that means. There's many different categories, but I'm sure he won some sort of award or something, and then did not get a distribution deal. But to be honest, I'm not even so shocked, because there's this thing where it's like filmmakers will like get into a festival or a couple and you think you're good because it's so hard to get in those festivals. But the problem is that there's so many films now. There's so many and good ones. And I was a programmer for 5 years at a pretty big festival in Canada. And there's so many films that are good made every single year. It's like the only way to get people to see your film now is just to promote. Like a year. I mean, for 1 year, I've been talking about this movie. It's the first 2 lines on my Clubhouse profile, 100 interviews, something like that. And I'm going to keep promoting it, because how else do you build an audience when there's so many films?
That's great. So there's so much to unpack there. And I definitely want to get into Clubhouse and all those nitty gritty details about networking. But first, I would love for you to take me back, way, way back to that one moment where Bobby realized that, yes, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to create stories. I want to serve a particular audience. Can you remember the things that were happening around you? Describe that moment and tell us that story.
Well, okay. So for 5 years, I was the Canadian feature film programmer at a festival in Toronto called the Real World Film Festival. Okay. So it's like the most prominent multicultural film festival in Canada. I was essentially the backbone of the programming. So I had relationships across my country, very important relationships. And I was, I'm like a curator, right? I'd never made a film before. Like I directed like a mini DV short when I was like 25 that my brother directed. We kind of did it together. He went to film school, but it was like mini DV. Like it was like a $75 movie that we shot in like, 2 days or something. And it's funny. We put it on YouTube, but I wouldn't really call it a film. Like we're just fucking around. Right. And then I got this job and I was in my early 30s, and I was a really good programmer because I really cared about the filmmakers, right? Like I treated them very well. I would actually get in arguments with the festival on behalf of the filmmakers. That's how much I cared about the filmmakers, right? Like where literally like my boss was like, hey, like calm down. I was like, yes, but you have to understand they're coming from out of town. They don't like, I was so passionate. And they loved me, right? Because I was like really on the side of the filmmaker because I had been a playwright, I was an actor. And so I knew the sacrifices it took to make art. And then I guess just from championing filmmakers and watching so many films for 5 years, I did that job. It was like maybe my fourth year where I was like, maybe I could do this, because I didn't know anything about filmmaking. I was an actor, so I knew some from that perspective, but the actor's perspective is just one of many, many perspectives when you make a film, which I didn't know. But now that I've since then I've made like 15 short films and, all kinds of stuff, right? Like I've directed a lot now. But at the time I really didn't know. I just knew that I really loved filmmakers, if that makes sense. And the sacrifices that you have to like endure, like all the stories, man. And I was like programmer, right? Oftentimes it would be like their world premiere. At least their Canadian premiere, usually their world premiere. They were so grateful and then I would do the Q&As with everybody. And credit card films, or everybody told them they couldn't do it. And people would burst into tears at their screening, and like their fucking mom would fly in from another country. And I was just like, it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to provide that for people and to just share in their moment. And then I was like, man, like it'd be cool if I could do that, because I'd been supporting filmmakers for years. And then I was like, oh man, maybe somebody could support me. I could do that. And then I decided, I actually left the job amicably, but to become a filmmaker, because I felt you can't really do both. Not the way I was a very hands-on programmer. And I think that the best programmers really, really support and nurture the filmmakers. Because some people do both, but I find that some programmers compete against the actual filmmakers. It's like a weird vibe. I felt you had to choose. So once I decided that I wanted to actually be a filmmaker, I ended up leaving the job.
Got it. I'm very appreciative that you said that, because I think a filmmaker is a very certain breed, right? That they're willing to bleed for their craft in such a way that they will burn out, but they will get the thing made no matter what, because that is the goal that they set for themselves. What do you think it is about filmmakers and filmmaking, the whole filmmaking space in general, that gives them that drive and that gets them a complete sort of, pathway forward to pursue and to constantly chase after their dreams? What is it about that?
Okay. So what do I think? I think that I've done a lot in my career. Okay. So I started as a stage actor. I was a playwright. I've been very successful at every level. I've directed theater, and then I've acted in movies and TV shows. And I've really, like, I've experienced, I'm a singer songwriter, I'm a breakdown. Like I've really experienced a lot of different sort of art forms. And for theater, I feel like opera is the culmination of everything, because it's like live performance, singing and live music all at the same time, right? So opera for me is the ultimate live art form. For the recorded media, directing a feature film is the greatest artistic accomplishment you can have, because the only way it works, especially at a feature level, because a short, like you need all those things, but it's not the same. It's a short really is like a really good scene in a feature, but to pull a feature off and to because the audience is unforgiving, right? Especially like at the feature level, because everyone's seen how many movies. Everybody's got a favorite movie. Like in the theater world, like not everybody watches plays. They don't have necessarily favorite play. Everybody has a favorite movie, right? You can go to like a small fishing village in Malaysia and they know who Brad Pitt is, right? I mean, I don't know if that's true, but probably, right? But anyway, so there's a very long history of film culture in the world. So to pull it off, you have to click at every level, right? Technically, right? Like the photography of it, the music of it, because score is such an underrated element of film, the performance, the writing, the art direction, like visual, like think how many things have to go right to really pull off feature film, the amount of time, like from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? Like years, especially when your first feature, the number of people who actually have real money to make a first feature has got to be less than 1%. It's got to be less than 1%. Most of us, you're just scraping by anything you can do, any resource, every favor, years of your life for a shot to like make a piece of art that everyone's going to watch. It's amazing. I just am so inspired by it. And I think the people who are drawn to it are really true artists who want to like really connect and tell their stories at every single level that you can tell a story at artistically.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a great way to put it. And, it's interesting, the distinction you made between a short and a feature film. It really is a whole different realm that is, filmmaking in general is just a culmination of so many different art forms. And it's such a collaborative art form. In your experience, what has been the one kind of lesson or one nugget of information that you can share with our filmmakers that has propelled you and gotten you past that barrier of not having, a proper budget for a feature film or a budget that you would have liked, being resourceful instead of, focusing on the resources that you don't have? What's that one piece of information that you can share?
Gratitude. It sounds it's like, what a weird answer, but I love my movie. You're not allowed to say that, right? Like when filmmakers say, "Oh, I hate my movie. Oh, I could have done this, I could have done that." My film is not perfect. I mean, my feature film, The Market, right? Like some people hate it. A lot of people really like it. I mean, I have a Hollywood screenwriting agent because of it, so I'm doing something right? But it's not even that. It's like I made the movie that I wanted to make when I died. I made the movie I wanted to make when I died. You know what I mean? Like I decided I would make the movie at my bachelor party. I'm now divorced, so I don't know what that means. But it was like all my friends and family, the people closest to me were like, "Man, I love that play," because it started as a play, and they kept, "It has to be a movie, it has to be a movie," and they literally, it was like everybody was like, "You got to make that, you got to make that, you got." And I had decided that I would make that movie then and there, and my movie's called The Market, and so we leave the bar to go to the Rippers because this is my bachelor party. Come on, and my cousin Fabio, he pokes me and he points. And in Toronto, there's a supermarket and it's kind of like branded in a cool way. And it's called The Market. And he points and it was like lit up. It was so funny. It was like late at night. Everything was dark. And then I just see these bright letters, The Market. And I was like, it's a sign. And as hard as the experience was, on set, pre-production, post-production, you know how it goes, distribution, years. It took years to make. It took years to finally get a distribution deal. All the stuff that we go through. But to be honest, like I loved every moment, because it was like, even when things were hard, I was like, I am making my fucking movie. I'm making my fucking movie. And I was like, I cannot wait for people to see this. And it was the movie that I wanted people to see when I died. And you know what? It turned out pretty well. And so people are like, I only had $12,000. I made my movie for $12,000. I'm like, I got to make it for $12,000.
Right.
I got $12,000. It's like my dream. This is my dream movie. Like even like the two leads, Kyle MacDonald and Julian Dezati, they've become pretty big actors in Canada, but they were really nobody at the time. But they were my friends. They were the leads in the play. They did a really good job. And to be honest, I don't think that if I had a chance to take, I don't know, Tobey Maguire and Leo DiCaprio or Kyle MacDonald and Julian Dezati, I would have picked my actors. I would have picked who I have because I wanted them. I wanted them because in my mind, those roles were them. And I'm proud of that, is that it's like people are going to see the actors that I chose to play those roles, to bring it to life for my feature film debut. They absolutely crushed it. And, it's cool. Like a few years later, they're both starting to build these major careers in Canada in the film and television industry. And it's very rewarding.
You made choices, you made bold choices. And I think that, essentially that's ultimately what you need to do to succeed in whatever you're trying to achieve. So let's get into it. The Market. Sure. It's very interesting to hear that it started as a play. I absolutely love theater. It was my first love until I transitioned into filmmaking, going behind the camera. What was that adaptation process like? And then I'd love to hear perhaps an anecdote or a story of something that, obviously we want to romanticize the experience, and our brains kind of leave the best parts and tend to hide the worst things that happen. But I'd love to hear a roadblock or anything that happened that you sort of had to overcome.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to separate the writing part of the adaptation from the directing part of the adaptation. Okay. Because I'm pretty experienced as a playwright and as a theater director for maybe 15 years when I did my feature film version, right? The writing adaptation was so easy that I don't even think I even created an actual screenplay version. Nice. We're doing the exact script. I think I added 2 pages on final draft, silent scenes. but it's like 98% the exact same text. So there almost was no adaptation. It was like exactly the same. But the audience, it was my best play. The audience loved it. So I was like, I'm not fucking with this. This works. Even though the language is vicious, it's very purposeful. It's very pointed. And I had, 50 to 100 people tell me this is exactly what it's like to work in the finance industry. It was like so effusive that I was like, I'm not changing a word. I walked away from a $1 million potential production budget because they wanted me to change the script. And I was like, no. I decided to make my movie for $12,000 instead of $1 million because they were going to change it. And I was like, no, this is the movie I'm going to make when I die. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It would have hurt more to get a nice check and to not make the film I wanted to make in my fucking soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the writing part of it, easy. It's the same thing. The directing part of it, I mean, I had never directed a film. I'd never directed a short. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I had no idea. I was very experienced as a theater director. So I knew every inch of the story. I knew performance extremely well. I knew how to organize resources because I came from the low budget independent theater world. But still, like the technical component, I mean, is completely different, right? So it was, I don't know if I would say it was a nightmare because I'm a very open-minded, collaborative artist. So I loved my DP, Andrew Hunter. He was like 24. He was a genius. I was like so excited that there were so many people helping because in theater, often our teams are very small. And on a film set, obviously you have huge, huge teams. Even for like an indie film like this, we for sure had, 30, 40 people work on it. And it's like, I don't know, again, it's gratitude, right? 30, 40 people trying to like make my vision come to life. Like that for me was luxurious coming from theater. We would have teams of, including the cast, sometimes 6 people, 8 people. And now I've got 30 or 40 people and we're all working to like make art. I mean, I was just like, this is amazing. I will say, we made a feature film for $12,000 all in. That's not easy to do. One of those days was a 16-hour day where we shot, I think 15 to 20 pages of dialogue, a 16-hour day. And it was like heightened, intense drama. Luckily, it was like I had theater actors and it was a play and we rehearsed it like a play, but it was like, it's not just like talk. It's like everything's got to be perfect. We shot 15, 20-minute takes. Okay.
Yeah.
So we shot it like a play. There weren't like the takes were actually performances of the entire 15 to 20-minute scene that require maximum effort, maximum focus, maximum emotion, maximum intensity. And I'm sure if you can tell right now, actors do not get away with fucking anything on my projects. You bring it 100%. If you give me 100% and you fuck it up, it's fine. Reality is, if you give 100%, you won't fuck it up. So I'm very, very good at getting those performances because I would push my actors to go all the way. With that said, it was a very intense day. It was like,
I can imagine. My gosh.
And we were in this like bunker, like we were like in this basement trapped with each other for 16 hours with this really intense shit. And then I'm not going to say who, but one of my actors like had a fucking meltdown on set. And because I was like pushing. We finally got it. It was an amazing scene. And then he freaked out and had a fucking meltdown on set, which now is hilarious, but at the time was not fucking hilarious. Right. But it was just like, at that point, I don't know how many hours we were stuck in that basement, like 12 hours in a row, like with this like really dark, intense, like ugly scene. Like I thought he was going to destroy the whole set, but luckily he didn't. We got the footage and the movie's done. So,
well, let me tell you, I'm sure everybody walked away from that experience, if slightly shooken by the drama, walked away with some sort of lesson, something that they learned, because in those heightened moments, I think that's when you truly get the sense of like, oh my gosh, like this is how you're supposed to do it. And I believe that coming from theater, it's such an immersive experience, and I really condone you for sort of almost infusing theater into your filmmaking to make those performances that much more authentic, that much more believable, so that the audience can truly suspend their disbelief and be completely and fully invested in the story.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. After that breakdown, it was crazy. Right. And I looked at my sound op, Scotty Taylor, who's a great guy. And I apologized because it was a very, very dramatic outburst. Okay. And I went, I'm sorry, man. And he goes, that was fucking awesome. Right?
That's awesome.
Like, it was like that level of passion, So I was like, all right, well, I guess it went okay.
Yeah. So, all right, awesome. We talked about the past. We talked a little bit about the kind of, present time. What's happening with your work right now? I know you're in a sort of a transition moment, right?
Yeah. Look, we're not locked down in Toronto, but the whole world's kind of locked down. Like, I'm going to act in my friend Kat Hostick. She's got a web series. She wrote a part for me. So I'm in 6 episodes or something. So we start shooting this week. That'll be my first time on set for 18 months. I stopped auditioning. I have one of the best acting agents in Canada. I stopped auditioning during the pandemic, to be honest, to focus on Clubhouse, which was the right call. But also I was freaked out by the pandemic. I was like, I'm not shooting this. So this will be the first time on set that whole time. I'm excited, but I'm also a little cautious. I work in Hollywood now, right? So I'm based in Canada, but I'm going back and forth with projects between Canada and LA. So I have lots and lots of projects in development. I can essentially just pull the trigger and shoot like a bunch of things like right now. I'm still waiting, especially now with LA, cases are going up. It's kind of freaky. But for the acting, I got another acting role as well. I think it's good for me to sort of jump into other people's sets, other people's work before I do my own. I have many projects ready to go, but I'm still not convinced it's safe, to be honest. So I guess it's a bit of a test. Like, I guess I'll tell you next week. I think it'll be fine. But I don't know. I guess everyone's wearing masks and they're testing and I don't know. It kind of freaks me out, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely an uneasy situation to sort of dive in after only so little time has passed. I mean, it feels like ages, but it's always good to err on the side of caution, I believe.
Have you shot anything during the pandemic?
Well, just in terms of corporate work, yeah, we've been doing quite a bit of travel and shoots, but they're definitely, mask mandates are all over the place with different countries. I was just in San Diego, and as we were landing, they were like, we're reinstating the mask mandate, indoors. But it's definitely a variance in how seriously people are taking it. I obviously am, pretty serious about it. And I follow all the protocols because I think, why not? It's just a piece of cloth on your face. It's not that big of a deal. I think it gets dicey once you get into, talent on camera, requesting not to be wearing masks. And that, I think that's kind of an iffy part.
I mean, look, in Toronto, like, mask mandates never stopped. So the mask mandate's been steady throughout like the entire 18 months. So that to me doesn't much, but as an actor, obviously I'm going to be taking the mask off to perform.
Exactly.
So that's when it gets a little like, can I do this? Or I don't think I have intimate scenes in this web series. I don't remember, but that too, right? Like, that's got to freak people out. I mean, out of my mind. Right.
Yeah. It's definitely something that I think everybody should be aware of, but it's also, I don't think that it's something that people should be afraid of necessarily, because fear is what will cause that, kind of slow degrade into I think it's good to be knowledgeable and to be just super hyper aware of your surroundings, and obviously make the right decisions when opportunities come your way. I'd love to hear about kind of what's coming for you in the future, and maybe perhaps a little bit about, I'd love for you to touch on Clubhouse and kind of how that's,
Sure.
given you a bump, because I've been trying to get our filmmakers here to spend more time actually logging on and networking with people, because I found it to be just a treasure trove of information and building relationships and connections. So let's touch on Clubhouse. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm sure you have a lot to say, and a little bit about what's coming for you next besides the acting gig.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed my life. Like I've put 100 hours a week, give or take, in the last 5 months in the Clubhouse. I just hit 19,000 followers. I'm one of the most connected people on the app. I have connections all around the world, right? So I don't know. It's set up. I don't want to be a dick. I could probably do 100. I could probably set up 100 projects based on the relationships I've made on Clubhouse, right? Like I have projects set up with some of the best producers in the world, right? In Hollywood, I've produced. I have things set up with, people who are sort of more junior. But I have relationships in every major country in the world now, right? Because of Clubhouse, a lot of stuff in the US. Plus I was already committed, to lots of projects in Canada. So I don't know. I can kind of do whatever I want. I'm repped in LA now. I have relationships at every level of the industry. So I can kind of do what I want. I have producers who want to buy my scripts. I have producers who have bought scripts. I have actors I'm working with. I was offered a starring role in a feature film. Like it's like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? I can do whatever I want. I can run a business with anyone. I can live anywhere. I can write my own ticket. With that said, my biggest issue right now is what do I want to do? Like, what do I want? Because I can do anything. And it's not, I also recognize the opportunity that I have. My rooms are about community. It's about giving, helping people. But I also receive a lot, right? So that's not lost on me. But for me, it's about, okay, well, what do I actually want to do? So I have a lot of projects being set up, and I'm doing some of them. Some of them will just go away. It's attrition. This always happens. But if I have to be perfectly honest, I don't have that project like the market. In a way, if I never make a movie again, it's okay, because I made the movie I wanted to make. It's the market. I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it. It does everything I want it to do. To be honest, even if I had $12 million instead of $12,000, the movie wouldn't be very different at all. I mean, there'd be more extras in the bar.
That's such an interesting perspective. And I think I would love for you to expand on that, because I think a lot of times filmmakers get hung up on the budget that they don't have, when that's not about that.
I'll tell you why. It's very simple, because it's so funny to me. And I've talked about this many times on panels, is that when filmmakers talk about their films, they talk about the budget. This happens all the time, right? Oh, this budget's 1.5 million. And I remember, and I've challenged people, as sort of like benevolently as possible. Shouldn't we be talking about the work and not the amount of money we have to execute the work? Because they're different conversations. For me, it's never about the money. It's always about the work. Like, how does the scene flow, right? Who's appropriately cast? What's the story? What are you trying to leave the audience with? For me, everything is artistic. Money is just a functionary, right? It's like, okay, well, I don't know. I need a crane to do. The reality is there's so many creative ways to make a film. I just don't even think you need that much money. I mean, I would take the money, but like, I remember, I did a web series. I was the creator and showrunner of a web series called IRL, the series. We sold it to to a big television corporation in Canada. And I directed every episode, 12 episodes. It was an anthology. So every episode is a different genre. Okay. My idea, because I wanted to test myself as a director. And some of my, I don't know, the episodes that I'm most proud of is when something terribly went wrong. And all of a sudden, I had to come up with a creative solution in 5 minutes because the day was booked, the location was booked, and And it was like, wow. And it always worked out. Those were the best days because, and I would just say things like, just take the camera and just shoot and just like, don't put it in focus. And just, because I had this scene where it was supposed to be madness. And I was like, wouldn't that be interesting if the cinematography kind of went in and out in this very like organic way to reflect the psychology of the character? Like and it was just like a function of having to like solve a problem quickly. And I was like, man, it's such a cool art form where there's a billion ways to do everything where you don't even need money. Like you could like take your iPhone and like film your star and flip it up in the air and like, and it's like, there's a million ways to do it. And I feel like filmmakers, so often I hear if only I had $750,000, if only I had $8 million, if only, and I'm like, where's your fucking creativity? You don't need that shit. I come from theater where I created like amazing plays for like $75, $150, like $300, right? And people are telling me you can't make a piece of, and these are 90-minute plays. It's like, you can't do a 90-minute movie for less than $3.5 million. Why not? I don't understand. And I think
in theater, you don't even get fed. There's
right?
No crafty.
That alone. It's like, they give you fucking lunch. I'm in.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Bobby, I love the way your mind works. And I could keep talking to you for hours. I think I'm trying to keep these shorter on more of the 30, 40 minute range. So I have a couple more questions for you. The last one is very much a doozy and it's been tripping people up. But before we get to that, where can our filmmakers go to find out more about you?
I mean, I don't know. Instagram, Clubhouse,
IMDb.
Google. There's my link tree, LinkedIn. When I was 8, I'm sure somebody posted a photo of me.
I'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes.
Yeah.
I'll make sure people follow up and watch The Market. It is available for a really cheap purchase. I mean, it's $2, $2-3. Like, spend the money, watch The Market. And last question for you, Bobby. I've absolutely enjoyed this conversation, and I hope to get you back on the podcast once your next project inevitably picks up steam. But this is very important. What is your deserted island movie? So if you could only watch one film for the rest of your life, what would it
Castaway.
be? Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm on a deserted island. I got to figure that shit out, right?
Wilson. I think one of the other filmmakers I interviewed actually said Castaway as well. So it's
I was like, I need the fucking blueprint. Like, get me the fuck off this place.
Amazing.
I'm very proud.
Whatever you need to do to make it happen. Bobby, thank you so much for the value you've given us. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you being on Filmmaker Secrets podcast.
Thanks for having me, bro.
If you like that, then you are going to love my Cine Racing Challenge. This is a 7-day filmmaking competition where your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to write, shoot, and edit a short 60-second film in just 7 days for your one chance to win with over $10,000 in prizes. So head over to cineracing.com. That's cineracing.com to get registered. Spots are filling up fast and the timer is ticking before the next Cine Racing Challenge launches. So be sure to head over to cineracing.com right now to get registered. I'll see you over there.